What's going on, everybody, and welcome to the Other Side of the Firewall podcast, where we talk about the latest and greatest in cybersecurity news, as well as we highlight those movers and shakers and glass ceiling breakers, those people of color who've made it to the other side of the proverbial firewall. My name is Ryan Williams, and this week I'm joined by Chris Abacon.
What's going on, everybody?
And Daniel Acevedo.
How's it going, guys?
What's going on? So please continue to tune in throughout the week. So again, Monday and Tuesday are topics. Wednesday, like today's discussion. Thursdays, Ask CISSP. I have like one more in the pipe for right now, but I'm going to push out an email to everybody. Come on back on the show. And then Friday's everything else. So movies, books, games, all that good stuff. But today's discussion is coming from the Register. So it is titled Five Eyes InfoSec Agencies list 2023's most exploited software flaws. So the Cybersecurity Agency of the UK, Cybersecurity Agency, of the UK, US, Canada, Australia, and New Zealand, which are the Five Eyes, issued a list of the 15 most exploited vulnerabilities of 2023 and warned that attacks on zero-day exploits have become more common. Well, duh, on that part. I think this article is pretty interesting. We talk about this so far. I think we've done one of these almost every year, right? Because this always pops up at the tail end of the year. So it's cool to have a different perspective, right? The past 2 years have been me and Shannon. The first year was probably going to me, Shannon, and Levon. So now we get to get your guys' take as well. So I'll toss it to Daniel. What are your thoughts?
You know, 0 days are very interesting. You know, they're like the unknown, the shadow master. Like you've seen Hercules or mythology. It's like a Hydra. You know, you think you patch, you get your systems ready, you remediate 1 0 day, and then like 3 more pop up out of nowhere, 5 more. And the article in the beginning goes to say, you know, make sure your stuff's updated, it's patched, all that stuff. But with 0 days, it's not going to really help that much because 0 day, as it says, is something that's new and exploitable that hasn't been in the, you know, out there in the populace for more than not even a day. So to prepare for it, it's almost impossible. And if the malicious actors are pivoting to doing more 0 days than social engineering and phishing attempts, it kind of signal a lot of bad things. Because I don't know from an industry's perspective or a business perspective, how do you really protect against that? They go on to name a bunch of different software and how those softwares or hardwares are being exploited and things of those natures. But as a cybersecurity practitioner, you do your best to either implement things like, you know, multi-factor, zero trust, segregation of network, endpoint security, those kind of things. The things that the article is alluding to are actually either systematic flaws from the software itself and the malicious actors exploiting those things in different ways, which would actually put the onuses on the third-party vendors on how they architect and build security into their products, which also some of those products are from security vendors, and there's only so much you can do also to make things function for a business. And you got to think, a lot of what these malicious actors are doing now also are they're retooling old ports and protocols or services that have been out and been used for like 20, 30, 40, 50 years. And they're realizing that there's different ways that they can use them to exploit things out there. So, you know, I'd hate to be the doom and gloom guy as always, but there's a lot that the bad guys can do. And if they're going towards 0 day, they're going to make us more reactive in nature than we would want to be. Chris, I know I'm sounding, you know, like the end of the world, but do you think my head's in the right place with this one? Or
I think your head is in the right place because I think you said zero trust, and I think that should apply at every level of cybersecurity in terms, especially when it comes to some of these vendors. When you as an organization are looking to onboard a vendor for, you know, an MSP, or when you're utilizing, if you're gonna, you know, install Cisco or even Fortinet or whatever, like any stuff on this list, you have to be cognizant of these specific weaknesses and work with that specific vendor to say, hey, what have you guys done to ensure that in this example, the third and fourth positions go to, and fifth positions actually, they go to Cisco and Fortinet, right? We know Cisco and Fortinet are big networking, network security. They're big in the networking, like routers, firewalls, right? big companies, people with the power to influence these companies should be able to work with them and say, hey, look, have you guys done anything to mitigate these flaws? Like these iOS operating system vulnerabilities where this is the third position, right? Cisco has iOS XE operating system issues where they can subvert software and create a local account and escalate their privileges. Like that's just kind of basic penetration testing type stuff. I'm not saying it's basic, but I'm saying it's an access control problem. All right. A lot of the top two were access control problems. So I think as a vendor or as a business, looking into your own access control policies, procedures, access granting, privileged access reviews, ensuring that really no stone is unturned, making sure every account everybody that leaves your organization, their accounts get disabled, deleted, whatever it might be based on your policy or organization. That is huge, right? Because it's getting into those old accounts, brute forcing them, and then escalating those privileges where companies and these organizations really, that's where they get into a lot of trouble. And I think you're definitely right on the enemy or the adversary is always active. They've got nothing to lose. They're playing around. They're messing around with a Rubik's Cube, which is your security system. And if they're going to solve it eventually, right? They're going to solve it eventually. No puzzle no code cannot be broken unless you go towards that quantum cryptography or stuff like that. But implementing cryptography and everything is extremely difficult, right? So these access control measures, put into place by these organizations is huge. And I think working with a vendor is key on that. But kind of discussing some of the other stuff here, they do talk about older vulnerabilities, like Daniel was saying. A lot of these vulnerabilities have existed for potentially even years, like the SQL injection vulnerability. In progress, move it transfer that will allow an attacker to sniff around MySQL server and Azure SQL databases. Like, how is it that 2020 and 2019 X versions are still vulnerable? Right? It's actually it is looking at your legacy platforms and ensuring that there is continuity and looking at all those aspects, and that is a problem. It's one of those things where you're so big, right, as Microsoft, and you just got to secure more. You got more to work with. The more buildings you have, the bigger your threat. The more threat factors that you do have. Yeah, at the end of the day, no stone unturned, right? And really look at your old programs, look at your legacy platforms, secure them to the best of your ability, because that's all we can do, right? That's all we can do as security professionals. Do what we can. So that's kind of my thoughts, Ryan. What do you think?
No, I think you guys are both on the right track. So, yeah, you talk about some of the things on the list. You're like, how are they still on the list? For me, it's number 8. So it's the Apache Log4j or Log4j, however you want to pronounce it, vulnerability from 2021. That was huge when it happened, right? Like that was the tail end of that year, and people were scrambling. But it's still number 8 in 2023. How is that possible if people are paying attention? That shouldn't be possible. So what that leads me to believe, right? Like put on my consultant hat for a second, is that it's a lot of mom and pops who don't necessarily understand patch management or not very technical, or you have people on your team who are just not paying attention, right? You have somebody who's in charge of your configuration management or your patch management who doesn't have a vested interest in searching forums and learning new stuff. Listen to podcasts. Like there's a lot of things you could do to stay in the know that are passive, right? You don't have to constantly be trying to a threat hunt, right? Like that's a special talent that everyone doesn't have. But you can passively listen to podcasts, you can read forums, you can check out big websites like Dark Reading or Bleeping Computer or like this, The Register, right? You can still be in the know without having to be the most techie person on the planet if this is your job. Or it could be that we just need to make a major shift to cloud, right? Because a lot of these are probably on-prem systems that are still suffering from Log4j. Because if you're in the cloud with one of these big billion-dollar, trillion-dollar companies, they probably patched it out by now. You would hope. If you're, Azure and this is still a thing, then Microsoft has made a big mistake. They deserve to lose your money, but I doubt it. I'm pretty sure that they've already patched this out of their systems. But you being a person who, maybe it's a server in your closet, maybe you haven't done so, you might need to move. You might need to migrate to the cloud for better security because you're not able to handle it yourself, basically, at this point. So there's a lot to be said about that. And we can't solve it all in one day, but I think it comes down to awareness. It comes down to actual care, right? You're doing your due diligence. You're actually searching around and learning some stuff because you're not going to get everything, but you'll get the things that have been on this list for 2 years if you've paid any attention to the cybersecurity landscape in the past couple of years, right? You'd have been like, oh yeah, I know what Log4j is. I should see if this is in my systems because it's a heavy hitter, right? At 0 days, they get everybody. They get governments, they get everybody else. That's for somebody else to care about. That's for your billion-dollar, trillion-dollar companies who have threat hunting teams that are out there constantly. Like Google's always after Apple. Apple's always after Google. Like they're trying to find these 0 days to tell each other about it, right? To get those bug bounties, to get awareness out there, because one weakness in the chain makes us all weak, right? Because we have mixed vendor situations all over the place. So we don't want to be exploited because you got exploited. So those things already exist. There's already people out there who are trying to find the 0 days. That's not necessarily for you as a listener of this podcast. Somebody's already handling that. What you can do is these things have been identified, and now I can do something about it within my own environment. Or I can migrate to a better environment. So you can think about that as well, right? You have to do your business impact analysis to figure out, like, can we afford to migrate and how much will that better secure us and protect our data? So that's for you to do, or for you to contact Ram Cyber.
Yeah.
For me to do. Little plug there. But I digress. Really, it's just awareness. Like, just pay attention. Like, because I have people ask me, like, how do you stay up to date? I'm probably not completely up to date, but I have a vested interest because of the podcast, right? I'm always learning about new stuff so we can talk about it during the week. And then that bleeds into my actual job a lot. You're like, we should check out for this. And then you find it, you're like, man, listen, I'm glad I found this because now I get to talk to you about it. I get to be the smart guy in the room for a second and then help you patch this out of your system, or, find a way to either mitigate, transfer, or suck it up and we have to accept the risk. Like, that's just the way it is, right? So one of those things is going to happen as long as you have some kind of awareness. So that's my big plug. So yeah, listen to the podcast. We'll make you aware. At least we'll try, because I have to find 3 to 4 articles a week. So I'm always out there searching, right? So if you listen to us, you'll hear about something. But I digress. Definitely continue to tune into the podcast, like, share, subscribe, all that good stuff. Leave us some feedback because we love that. And, hit up all those social buttons and help us out. Like, if you cannot buy a product from a person, that you engage with their product, and that boosts their presence on social media. So that's how you can help me out. Hit up all the websites that go by your name: The Other Side of the Firewall, The Other Side of the FW, or Ask a CISSP. Give me a person at RYRY Security Guy. That's RYRY Security Guy. You can find me on pretty much every platform, but I'm most active on LinkedIn. And where can they find you, Chris?
Find me on LinkedIn under my name, Chris Abacon. Last name spelled Abacon.
And you, Daniel?
You find me on LinkedIn under my name, Daniel Acevedo.
There it is. Stay safe. Stay secure.